Hey everyone, welcome to this year's summit, the Homeschooling Global Summit 2020. Joining me today is Kelly Davis. And if you were with us last year, you will recognize Kelly from many of the interviews. Kelly, thanks so much for being here today and joining us.
Thanks for hosting me, Daniel.
Well, Kelly is the co-founder of Galileo and educational director of education, excuse me. And Galileo was spawned after the summit last year, and she went on and founded it and is leading the team there, all things education, onboarding the students, the families, the teachers. She's got a great insight to education on both sides of the coin. So looking forward to getting to this. I forgot to introduce this little person behind me. This is my daughter, Lauren, and she is one of Kelly's students on Galileo. And she wanted to come in and ask the first question. So, Lauren, what is your question for Kelly?
Why did you think to make Galileo? I think.
Ooh, good question. Starting strong. I like it. Thanks, Lauren. I would say that Galileo started, like Daniel said, from the summit. And after we polled all of the parents that were involved as speakers and attendees, and everyone overwhelmingly said that reading was the most important for them and their children. And that's how the book club was birthed. So we started a book club. We had Harry Potter as our theme. It grew in popularity. And there was a need for more. We wanted to make more community. We wanted to connect students from around the world and to help them advance in their alternative education wherever they were on their journey. So Galileo began as a daily check-in program, and in addition to the book club, and now we've expanded, we have about 19 clubs. We have 9 classes of check-ins, and these are with 8 maximum students. And I always like to say that Galileo is the school that I didn't have. So when I was 12, around this age, if someone said that I will be your mentor and I will give you the resources and the inspiration to be whatever you want, then I think maybe it would have turned out a little bit differently for me. But that's not to say I'm not really thrilled to be here in this position. So I like to say that I'm making the school for my 12-year-old self that could have used something like this when I was in the public school system. So.
Is that a good enough answer?
Yeah,
I thought it was an amazing answer.
Yeah, but
that's leading into another question. Okay.
Yeah, when did you meet Vlad?
When did I what?
Meet Vlad.
Oh, when did I meet Vlad? Good question. So in January of last year, so a year and a half ago, we met through an Upwork job posting. I was leaving the full-time teaching world and I started to look for more opportunities online. And I found Vlad through a posting on Upwork. I kept saying yes. I wanted to do more. I wanted more opportunity. And the original post was for a different kind of school that he had in mind. And then we decided to do the summit. I said, yeah, let's try it. I was never a host or interviewing people, but let's keep saying yes and see where it takes me. And I'm really thankful to be here.
And for those that are wondering, who's Vlad? Vlad is the co-founder of Galileo with Kelly. So, is that your questions over?
I had another one, but I forgot that one. So, and I didn't want to give away all your questions.
It would be nice if I could get on with my work. Yeah.
If you think of it during breakfast, you can come back and ask again.
Okay, do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah, bye.
Thanks, Lauren. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly. Well, yeah, really nice touch actually that she wanted to come in and interview you and get like a student teacher's kind of take on this because, watching them interact with Galileo has been, amazing from the start, from the book club, and now that they're actually in it, going in, full time. It's the difference is so striking between like a public school system or even if you're paying a lot of money for a private school system and going there for like 8 to 10 hours a day, whatever it is, to be. And I think the key word that you said there is mentor. Would you like to just expand on that and your belief around mentoring rather than teaching?
Yeah, and that's another reason why in our check-ins, they're facilitators. Facilitators can mentor and support. They're also teaching, but the teaching is more for the core things and for the content delivery that would happen more in clubs. And facilitators need to kind of be the motherly figure or the mentor figure, or however, this idea happens, that we want to educate the whole child. It's not just about checking up on what they did in their daily check-in, but how can we support them emotionally, socially, and make sure that all of their needs are being met.
Yeah, perfect. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background and your backstory, because you are a teacher by trade, if that's the right turn of phrase. Could you tell us a little bit about what brought you into teaching, and now like living abroad, where you are in Taiwan and your teaching experience there? Yeah, what was that journey?
Yeah, I'll shorten the story, but I guess when I was growing up, my dream job was to be a teacher. So one of my older cousins than me, she was always a teacher, and I always dreamt of being like her. She was a good mentor for me when I was growing up, as a big sister figure. And then when I went to university, I didn't choose teaching. I went into communications and public relations. I started working at different nonprofits. This led me to work at the study abroad office at my university. I had an experience to visit my other cousins studying abroad in Ireland, and just got to see how international students connect. Was really eye-opening when I was 18. So after that, I worked at the study abroad office, and I was able to help a group of students that were studying their MBA at our university for a summer program, and just showing them around, showing them the culture of America. And it was an Amish country in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, where I went to university. So after that, I studied abroad in Australia, and I had the opportunity to go on a trip to Fiji, and I went with a group of teachers. I wasn't studying to be a teacher, but I went with them just to see what it was like. And we lived in this village for 2 weeks, and we were walking to their one-room schoolhouse every day to teach them about hygiene and to teach them about finding local clean water sources, how to filter water, how to take care of wounds, and bringing them toothbrushes, notebooks, and pencils. This was really my first classroom experience, and after that, I decided, yes, I will be a teacher. That was pretty much, sign me up, I'm in. So I knew that, I wanted to help people, but I wasn't really sure that I was going to be a teacher one day. So I graduated university and I moved right to South Korea, and I taught there for a few years in Seoul. I was teaching kindergarten and elementary school students. Then I backpacked through Southeast Asia, as many people do, and I volunteered at a school for students with special needs in Vietnam. And again, it was an incredibly eye-opening experience that confirmed that I wanted to continue teaching and not taking a gap year and then move home and get a career in public relations. So after that, I visited America, and then I signed up for a job in Taiwan. And almost 6 years ago, I landed here. I started working at a language center, and then I went to an international school where I became certified and had an interesting experience there for working in an international school system. And 2 years ago, a few days ago, was my last day there. And I have since been tutoring and working online, and then I discovered Vlad, and the rest is history, I guess we could say. Yeah.
So that is such a rounded kind of pathway that's brought you to this moment now where, and I think it's really important, and I want to get into this in a little bit, like about going remote and location independent and what that could mean for teachers that are currently in the system and getting a chance to teach remotely, not even by choice, by necessity. But before we do get into that, I want to ask you a little bit about what you saw students going through in the Southeast Asian countries, because my family, all my kids were born in Singapore. We lived in Singapore for 15 years, and they were brought up and they went through Montessori style or public schooling system or international. We tried them all. And so we got a close look at the public schooling system, and it gets talked up a lot around Western countries about you know, how good they might be at a particular subject. Let's say, take, for example, maths, and how we're going to adopt the Singapore style math curriculum. And that worries me because I've seen what that could actually mean for the child. But I'd like to ask you what you see and have seen, and some of the kids that you've taught in these positions.
Yeah, I think the first eye-opening experience into this kind of difference was when I first moved to Korea, and someone told me about the laws there for language centers and how you were not allowed to have school after 10 p.m. and many schools found ways around this. They would put the classrooms in basements or just put blackout curtains on the walls so that they were allowed to keep the lights on and the classrooms going until the late hours of the evening. And after that, I realized, you know, the differences were huge. And even teaching at a kindergarten, they were there for 8 hours a day. Like, I don't know any kindergarten student who is learning in a chair at a desk. You know, they're not really playing and socializing as much as you would imagine. And I think that the differences between the East and the West just started for me there. So, you know, realizing that my upbringing was very different in the public school system. I just had a student recently ask me, like, did you have homework? He's in grade 3. Did you have homework when you were in grade 3? I said, I think maybe a page or two, but you know, maybe I did it, but I turned out okay, you know? So they come home with 4 hours of homework and then it's bedtime. So I think what we see is that it's not about the student and what's good for them in the long run. When parents or people hear about the high test scores that you can have and let's adopt this curriculum and you're going to get a really high test score. Well, what's a test score going to do? And when I ask some students or parents, like, great, you're studying for this test, what does that mean? They're like, we get to see the number, and then what? There's no end then. They don't have the answer. It's just to get the number. Maybe they're going to tell their aunties and uncles about it, and maybe their neighbors, and, you know, keep up with the Joneses in terms of test scores. So I think in this way we see that, you know, even for parents and many of us who have gone through the public school system, what is important? Is the test score the most important thing? Or is it about the child being able to ask interview questions to me? How old is Lauren? 10?
9.
Yeah. So I think in that way, it's, you know, we see the differences that, you know, to hold conversations with adults, to make presentations like students do in their daily check-ins, to be able to be confident in themselves, to be able to speak their voice and to know what they want as a child is really important. So I know it's a cultural thing in terms of Asian culture, how it's harder for students to voice their opinion or say no to their parents. It's quite unheard of, but in this way we help, you know, give them the voice and respectfully understand that there is another way. It's not just about saying yes and putting your face down and getting the workbook done.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I see happening on Galileo. Like, you know, you got a bunch of kids. You could have, I mean, how many kids could you have on one Zoom call?
And well, we have up to 8 and the club somewhere up to 15. The most is 15 or 18, I had, depending on the popularity.
Depending on the club, right? And you, as you explained it before, like there's a daily check-in with your mentor, where you talk about your schedule, but then there's the clubs that you can pick and choose and build your weekly timetable around. And one of those clubs might have 15 to 20 kids in from all over the world, and, you know, all chipping in new ideas. And I bet you guys, you must go in with a lesson plan, I'm sure, but you know, that lesson plan probably lasts 3 seconds, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I just had a new teacher join us for the book club that he took over, and he's like, well, the lesson plan didn't get finished. And I said, yep, that's the way it's going to be. You will get the most voracious readers. That we're meeting for the first week of book club, and we want to talk about 9 of the 35 chapters, and they've already written the book review and finished the book a week ago. So how can we balance all of these different situations? And in a book club or in a club situation, it's the collaboration. We have a theme that the book club is based around. So this month's theme is about motivation, and the projects are not just comprehension or vocabulary. We like to make them collaborate. Maybe they're researching on different topics and having these group settings that they're able to be leaders or, you know, have different roles where everyone is contributing in a different way.
Okay, so let's get on to then, because we've focused on like the student side of things, and I did want to get into the teacher side of things, because I'm sure, I know, like as you know, the teachers are just as stuck in the system as the kids, and there's teachers like you out there that are dying to, you know, to like fulfill their, what they feel is their life's calling, and to mentor people. And it's very difficult. In fact, I mean, let's call it, it's impossible to do that in the schooling system as it's set up right now, because you don't have the ability to teach what you want, how you want to teach it, and at what timeline that you would prefer to teach it, and adapt to the kids' abilities. You just got to get through the curriculum. So now we've had this COVID pandemic, and many countries around the world going into lockdown, and teachers being forced to teach remotely. How many teachers do you think are going to be looking for these online kind of opportunities? Are you seeing any pickup in interest there?
Yeah, I am in too many Facebook groups that have job postings, and I would say that the response is so huge that it's so oversaturated and people just don't know what is the best answer. So a company like VIP Kids started and grew in popularity because they were quite reliable. But after working there for a few months, I realized that that's just taking someone's 25 slide PowerPoint and then just puppeteering back to a student. That's mostly what it's about, is the song and dance. But does that reach the child and let the child speak? No, they're rote memorizing, they're filling in the blanks, and they're not able to express themselves. So I know this is about the teacher and I went back to the student, but what I wanted to say was that it's not an ideal situation for anyone involved. And yes, they can learn a language this way, I believe, but to learn beyond that, it's going to take more dedication. So when I look at these job postings or many teachers applying, it looks like, you know, to see the passion in someone who wants to help for the greater of the student, and it's not about the paycheck, then it's quite clear that, you know, that person wants to be a teacher to help students. They care about the student, the whole student, not just about getting them that grade on their next test. And I think also for the job postings that it's very hard to sift through what's legit and what's not. I know that a lot of these Chinese companies, they had a lot of students when China was under lockdown, and that's not the case anymore. And while many countries are still under lockdown and people are still jobless or without work for a while, they're losing students drastically and they just don't know where to turn. So I also see a lot of issue with only hiring native English speakers, and at Galileo, that is definitely not something that we want to embody as a principle. And I think for the check-ins and for certain subjects, yes, that will be important, but why not ask teachers, who are loving teachers from anywhere? Bring your background and your culture. So we are super happy that we have teachers from almost, not all continents, but a lot of, I would say 4 continents that are with us now. And it's incredible to have the experiences from around the world. Like, hey, I did this is my experience, and let's bring it together and see how we can work together in that way.
And as Galileo grows in popularity, what do you think? I mean, how many more teachers will you need to onboard, do you think, over the next 1 to 2 years?
Wow, you are asking questions that Vlad can answer. No, I'm just joking. Right now, we're looking to double our amount of teachers. So we have about 5 for facilitators, and we need to have about 10 kind of in the line so that we are ready when students are ready. But in the next 1 to 2 years, I would say between 30 and 40, because the clubs also will grow.
Yeah, that's so for anybody listening, if you're interested in mentoring and reaching out, make sure to come over and find Kelly at Galileo. And what should they do if people literally are, you know, really interested in this? How can they reach you, Kelly, and what should they send over to you?
Yeah, there's an application on the website, and we ask teachers to make a short little video. So just tell us about your experiences, especially any online experiences, some tech learning curve, of course, that comes with Zoom and all of the features. But aside from that, I would say that just a video and a little bit about you and your experience and more about your passion. We want teachers to teach what they want to teach the age group that they want to teach, the subjects that they want to teach. We would never force you to teach something that you're not ready for as well. So that's really important to us.
And what would you say to people that are a little bit nervous about making that video? Because I know you have.
Yeah, after making my video for about 3 weeks last year, I would say do the first run and don't edit it. Just say it to the mirror and press record, and that's it. The first one. That's how I need to do it. If you are like me and you are not into talking to your phone for an Instagram story every day, that's not something that I can naturally do. So don't fidget with any editing. Just try the first take, and as naturally as possible, we'll be able to figure it out. Yeah.
Great advice. 100% agree with you. Now, back onto the student side of things. What are your thoughts around like the homeschooling community is about to get like a huge influx of new families, new people, students and parents alike looking much closer at this option. If you remember, well, you do remember, of course, when we did this last year, the first summit we ever launched, I mean, there was a niche market. Like now we have like the whole world, like, huh, what is homeschooling? Like, that's a thing. We can do that. That's actually an option. What's home-based education look like? What is remote learning? With this, I believe there's going to be an influx of people looking to do something more remote. How are Galileo set up to handle what could be a lot more students looking for an opportunity like this?
Yeah, I think we see a lot of, especially now that it's summer break, we see a lot of people wanting to try it out. So a lot of parents are interested. They are either in some sort of tech realm, and they understand that having their children be entrepreneurial mindset based, to be able to control their schedule, have a time sheet, and know that they're following a schedule day to day for what their self-directed learning looks like. They understand that this is important for the longevity of the student, and frankly, not something that's really taught in a classroom. When the bell rings in a classroom, everyone gets up and moves. No one's taking credit for that, except for that automatic bell that's happening. So, you know, I'm sure this happens in your home too, when kids are, okay, it's time for math, and everyone's moving around and hustling around to their different subjects, you know, in their resources, whether it's online or offline, that they're kind of in control. And I think it's about letting the student have control, and letting them control based on what they're interested in. Especially when we talk with East versus West parents, it's all about deschooling. So how can we get rid of the system? Well, academics are really important. How can I make sure that math and science is getting accomplished? And I said, let's ask Johnny what he wants to do, you know? And if he's not ready for math and science this month, let's wait till next month. And I had this conversation recently with a parent, and the dad is a coder engineer, and he said, well, I really want her to do coding. And I said, just wait a few weeks. Once she joins the class and the majority of the students are already coding, that might creep onto her schedule slowly but surely once the conversation gets around coding. And his face just lit up like, wow, that's possible. It was like, just give it time, you know, just let it a little bit happen naturally. And if we force it too much, then they will feel overwhelmed. So we encourage parents and students to de-school for a little bit and then start really slow. So maybe we just have one academic goal and one personal goal that we work towards in the beginning. And then they will quickly blossom into much more than this without even forcing it. Yeah.
It's so true, and seeing it play out as well has been great. You know, math club this afternoon for both my twins. If I say to them, right, let's sit down and do math with daddy, it's just pain. Whereas if they're like, you know, they know 15 minutes before it's math club with Galileo, they're like, you're right, yeah, like you said, I need this one, you need that one, let's get this, we need to get signed into Khan Academy. Then they spend an hour. What I love about it is like Samuel, my 9-year-old, he might be on with Vlad's son, who's like 15, and he's talking him through, you know, and then you do this, and then you do that, and they're like sharing ideas, and an hour flies past, and they've done math, and they've been laughing and having fun, and it's like, man, that doesn't happen. It's just so powerful.
Yeah. And I think what Sammy's doing with Math Club and Coding Club and the rest of the clubs, you know, in the future, as well as the strength of peer-to-peer learning. And it's not just about 15 to 9-year-olds, you know, and we see that this isn't always ideal, but it is taking leadership, and it's taking, you know, the credit to know that they can reteach something. How do we know that we've learned something? We're able to regurgitate it back out to someone, you know, and that's where the power comes from. And they're able to be leaders, they're able to understand what that means and to help other students. And it's not just about teaching a little kid how to do addition, you know, it's much more than that.
So the last kind of hurdle that really kind of stops people in their tracks when they're looking into this is the dreaded, we touched on it at the beginning of the interview, the dreaded certifications. And, oh, well, this all sounds great, but, you know, if my kids go to Galileo, they're not going to get the qualifications that they need to go to college, then they're never going to get a job, and they're going to end up poor and unsuccessful and living under a bridge, completely bankrupt. That is this inbuilt fear for all parents, and even for experienced homeschoolers or world schoolers, you still every now and then, you know, you have to face this thing down and you know, tell yourself, no, you are doing the right thing, it will be okay. How do you when you come up against that kind of challenge, what's your response to people when they're worrying about that?
Well, the first thing I would say is go watch the summit, because we will have a full day of experienced homeschoolers telling their success stories. And of course, with every success, there's failures too. It's not always butterflies and rainbows, I'm sure, because I'm not in their home, you know, I'm just here on Zoom. But what I can say for the accreditation part is, depending on where you live, it's all depending on where you live. So if you are in America, or many international countries can use West River Academy, or any umbrella school that we recommend. West River, we are partners with them as well, and they can help provide the documentation. So you can apply to university with these diplomas and with these transcripts that your parents and us will help create for you. So we'll put our clubs and everything that you've accomplished in Galileo into a written transcript. I've also seen in the news recently that Google started hiring without bachelor's degrees, and many universities are hiring without SAT scores. And I also just saw that the SATs are canceled this year. So, you know, what is the future like? Who's going to have these scores to say that, yes, this is my score, this tells you everything you need to know about me. Oh, and I wrote a 500-word essay too. Can I come to your university? Well, anyone, you know, especially if at Galileo, they've been writing their opinion about anything for a long time now. So I think that this would come naturally for homeschooling students eventually. And I would say not to worry about it. It of course depends what age the child is, but I think they understand that there will be challenges. They're different. They're not getting the transcripts from school. It's not going to be done for them. But if you put in the work to make your own transcript and your own application, imagine what your job applications are going to look like in the future. I mean, you're going to get anything you want when you can talk about your experiences in that way. So.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the, to that point, one of the nanodegrees coming up is presentation skills, right?
Yeah, public speaking and presentation skills. So We have a public speaking coach and a presentation coach, and he's going to come and help the students create and curate some of their past presentations. So he will work with them to show them, you know, how to put text on slides, how to make it nice and readable, but also about using their voice, how to make your voice and make your audience listen to you, how to let your voice be heard. Of course, we talk a little bit about body language, but you know, when it's shoulders to the tip of your head, it's a little bit different, but it is going to be more important. You know, I see some politicians on Zoom videos. I'm like, oh man, their cameras are crooked. Like they don't have anyone to help them, you know? I saw someone using Google Slides, like, oh man, this is just terrible. They need to come to Galileo and get some help with that. So not everyone is ready for this change. So let's start them now, these change makers that we have in our school as young as 7. So it's awesome.
And just so people understand, like the layout of Galileo, like the core subjects are there month to month. You can choose the science, the math, the coding. There's writing and reading clubs, but then the nanodegrees, different people are invited on month to month, or perhaps 2 months. At the moment, Stacey is running the entrepreneurs. Would you like to talk a little bit about that? Because that one's really cool.
Yeah, we have so many people asking and coming in just for that as well. So the entrepreneurship nanodegree, or start your own business nanodegree, is from Stacey, and she has her own business where she's been teaching children to make their own business for a long time now. She's also an unschooling mother of 3 with 3 teen boys. So it's awesome to see her perspective and her experiences brought into Galileo. She's helping students in an 8-week course start from having 0 idea, no interest in business. And this is week 5. They just pitched and launched, and they're creating budgets for their business. So they have completely run with the ideas, and it's incredible to see what they've come up with. And I think in this way that the students understand that it takes a lot of effort for something that you want to have an end result. And I think it ties in nicely with our motivation book club theme as well, that students understand that, you know, a passion project can be done, but it's not about asking someone to help you. It's, you know, what can you do to get things done on your own now that you have the power to do so with the knowledge from Stacey. So.
And could you give us a sneak peek of any up and coming nanodegrees that might be coming, or ones that you're like secretly working on that is going to blow people away?
Yeah, good question. So the club that we just launched today, actually, this will be in the summit later. So in June, we are launching the music club. It's by 2 singer-songwriters and music teachers, and they will have a co-hosted music club where they will help students who play instruments, sing, or just an interest in music, how they create songs and the whole history of music and how they make their ideas come to life in songwriting. So that's a really awesome club that we have coming. We're also working on a debate club for students. They've been very strongly debating, especially the current situations that are happening in the world has brought up a lot of debates just happening naturally, and they're wanting more debate. So we're going to work on getting them the debate club, as well as the student-led club. So students now, they have the power and they know that they have the platform to make their own club. So we have 5 student-led clubs in the works. There's a gamers club, a video club, art club, cooking club, and photography club. And in the future, the next nano degree will possibly be about online security and digital wellness.
Yeah, that one I'm really looking forward to. And what I love about Galileo is leaning on like the parents' expertise that are coming, you know, like deeply professional backgrounds, willing to give up their time to like do a weekly call with the kids and teach them about their profession.
Yeah, exactly. And the clubs are definitely presented by professionals in their passion. That's something they want to give back and they want to help students with. And the nano degrees, of course, will also be the same, having professionals come in and share about their expertise. The online security and digital well-being has been a topic of mine for a long time that I wants students to understand about their digital footprint, what it means to be online and social media and have YouTube channels and TikTok, one of my scariest ideas. The scariest idea for me is TikTok, but I think, you know, how can we teach them balance and to teach them to go at it with, you know, a mindset that they can control it themselves and not worry about overconsumption and getting lost into a screen.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Kelly, I think we'll wrap it up, but I want to ask one last question. And if there was one person in the world that you could install your knowledge of what you've learned about, student-led education or home-based education, remote education, that they would go and share that message with their following, who would that person be and why?
Oh, Daniel, you didn't tell me this one. Usually I say Ellen, so I'm going to say Ellen. She has been a big mentor of mine, I guess, for a long time, indirectly, because I don't know her, unfortunately. But I love the way that she sees people for who they are and that she's able to just really connect with people and to support people that, you know, she wants to help because she's a good person. So I've looked up to her for a long time. Of course, she's hilarious and she keeps me laughing when times are rough. So yeah, I would say Ellen would be my final answer. I guess Oprah would be number 2, but we'll stick with Ellen.
Well, we need to get Ellen or Oprah on to do a chat show host nanodegree at Galileo. So that would be
amazing. They're all at home. Let's just call them up.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure we can, between the community, we can tweet our way into their eyesight. Who knows? Well, Kelly, thank you so much for today and for all of the work that you're doing with Galileo and looking after the kids. More importantly, looking after the parents, because there's a lot of fear around the parents. As much as the kids come in and love it, there's still fear around the parents, and I understand that you do a lot of work towards that as well. So, thanks so much.
Thank you, Daniel. Great to talk. Bye-bye.
Bye.